Hi, welcome back to Lakeside Quiltmaking Arts. I am Dawn at the lake, and since it is Wednesday, we will be working on our Comfort in the Waiting hashtag Avery quilts. These are the quilts that we're making, we as in the royal we, I suppose. These are the ones I'm making for pediatric patients on a transplant waiting list. This is not a nonprofit that I know of that exists already. I'm totally prepared to create this nonprofit as I need to once I get some momentum behind this effort. Right now, this is my second quilt, and I'm hoping to inspire you all to make some as well and to build this initiative into something that benefits others. On that topic, I do have a question. If any of you are nurses or doctors at a children's hospital and you're familiar with children being on a transplant waiting list, you might have some insight for me about how to contact those parents and how to make sure that their child is gifted a quilt. I don't know what the hospital's role could be in such an endeavor. If they're able to communicate with the patients and ask the parents if they want to sign up for their child to receive such a gift. I know there's a lot of laws involved in the hospital providing the patient contact information to us. That's not going to happen, but that patient's parents maybe can be notified that this nonprofit exists. Clearly, I'm a minute or two away from such an endeavor, but every good thing starts somewhere, and that's where we are right now. So I'm going to return my focus to the actual construction of Quilt 2, and we'll let this whole concept build over time. And I guess there's one other thing that I could say before we get going on things here, that if you want to donate any funds, fabric, or any services like quilting or binding or any of those things to this endeavor, just let me know. The email is lakesidaqma@gmail.com. I look forward to hearing from you, and especially anybody who's run a nonprofit, organized anything like this in the past. I've done some of that over the years. I've done a decent amount of that kind of thing. I've started some nonprofits and organized some events and some large events, actually. So I have some experience, but I know things have changed so much with social media and rules and laws around such things continue to change over time. So I'm not going to pretend that I have any answers. Just because I did something once does not mean that it works the same now. Also, of course, I can't do this alone. I require to work in a team. This needs to be a team effort. So if you want to be that person who is heading up this nonprofit, email me. We need to talk. Okay, let me show you what we've got here. This is everything that we cut out last week. And this is for, hold one memento, I believe it's here. This is the French vanilla quilt from the book, where's my front cover? Perfect 10 Quilts. And I didn't realize this, but I saw on social media that they have a Perfect 5 quilts. I don't know where I saw it, but this is the Perfect 10 quilt by It's So Emma Patterns. It's 16 quilts featuring Creative Grid's Perfect 10 ruler, which I have, and I used it just to get started on this project last week. And it was great to have just a 10-inch square ruler. It is 10 inches even. It's not 10 and a half. So it is definitely for the purpose of cutting out projects like this or for making your own layer cake. So what we're going to do today is what I hope to do and what I get done are not always the same thing. And I say that because Zoe and I took some of my quilting time today and went for a walk at the park. I will show you some pictures at the end of this video if you want to hang out and see those. There's just some video clips and short ones. A lot of ducks here. If you ever wonder what happens to the ducks when they fly south, when they come to my backyard, it's amazing right now. It's just amazing the amount of ducks that are out there. Different kinds of ducks too. I don't know what all there is, but there is clearly a variety of shape and sizes of the ducks. But they love this little cove here in my backyard. All right, so we're going to get these cut up. Hopefully, I'm at least going to get half of all the blocks done because I want to start the assembly line stitching, the chain stitching, which we do. Let me see. I'm going to get this laid out and then we can discuss it from an aerial view. Let me lay this out. My design board back here is getting pretty full, isn't it? I love it that way. Is this what goes here? No, this goes here. Yeah. And another little square. Yeah. Let me show you this. All right, so this is what each block will look like, except it's going to have white fabric where you see the white background of the design board. So I'm not quite sure. I haven't looked yet. I think this is probably an inch or an inch and a half, something like that. I mean, we can make it any size we want, right? We can make them 2 inches, 1 inch, quarter inch, whatever we want to do. But I'm going to first cut out all of those pieces, and then I'm going to start like an assembly line mode. I don't remember off the top of my head how many of these blocks I was making. I have a feeling it was 5 by 6. Did I make 30 or did I make 20? 22 is what rings a bell. I'll have to go back and look at my notes. I don't remember at the time. But I don't want this quilt to be too large, so I'm going to stick with like an inch or inch and a half. I'm going to cut all those, and then I will sew all of these together, and then I will sew all of these together, and then we'll sew this unit to this unit, and then that will make our blocks. And then, of course, we'll put sashing on either side of the blocks, and then we'll create a row. And then after our rows are created, we'll put a sashing between each of the rows, and then we've got a quilt top. That's super easy, right? And it all is. That's the reason I went with this. I wanted something that makes the pop, and it does. When you've got a lot of variety going on in one quilt, you're going to get interest to your finished quilt. But I wanted it to be easy and straightforward. I'm using up all my brain cells on the Mars quilt and on my block of the month for the quilt show and on my Blockheads 5. So my other works for the week, each week, I need something simple, especially for these. Since these are going to be donation quilts, I want it to look like there was some thought that went into it. I want them to not be uber simple, but at the same time, they need to be simple if I'm going to produce more than one a year, right? So this is where we are. And this is what we're going to do. First things first, I'll show you how easy it is to cut each of these squares up. I'll just show you one, and then you can imagine that I've done it to all the others. We won't bore you to death. Not today, anyway. I'll do my best not to. All right, I've pulled you closer so I can angle you down right here where I'm going to be cutting so you can see what I'm doing. This is super easy. Everything gets cut from this 10-inch square with just a few cuts. You've got all 4 of your blocks, and then they come together beautifully. Basically, you're taking this, and as you cut it up, that's where you're putting your internal white sashes. And well, you could do any color you wanted. Like, I'm really into saturation these days, and I don't know why. That makes me think maybe I won't use white in the middle. Let me see what other color I have around that I could use. Hang on. My first thoughts were that this would work. However, I think it's a little too stark. I laid it down. I'll show you. I laid it down next to, I'll just show you this way. I think that's just a little too stark to use in between. I feel like there needs to be some relief of color, not entirely. Like, it doesn't have to be white, like I said. It doesn't have to be. So then I thought about this. I think this is what I'm going to go with. If I have enough, I'm going to have to do some math. Don't want to start in on this if I don't have enough, right? So give me just a second to do some math. Because they say it's like rude to do math on camera. It's like a social faux pas. We'll go with that anyway. Doing my math and recounting my blocks, it is 20 blocks that I've got. So that means, I will do my calculations for my internal sashing for the blocks. I would do that calculation based off 20 blocks. You won't believe this, but I have exactly enough of this to put on the inside of these blocks. This was used in my Mars quilt, and I don't think I need it anywhere else because I only used it sparingly in the body of the quilt. There, see how I've used it in the body of the Mars quilt? And I believe I have been leaving it out of everything. Yeah, I've been leaving it out of the crust. I did put in some black and white in the crust, but not that, because I feel like it's very important that it be isolated. So I feel comfortable going ahead and using this for this other quilt. And while I was in Charleston, I went to that other quilt store. Let me put my lamp back and talk to you. When I was in Charleston and I went to that other quilt store at Mount Pleasant, the Wild and Woolly, I picked up some more black and white fabric in case I needed it for the back. And I think it would be a good substitute. And again, it would be good that it not be this, because I want that horizon line to be distinct. There's so much going on in that quilt. I think it's good if the horizon line is isolated. Nothing confuses your eye for what that is. Like, right? You knew that was a horizon line, right? This is the other black and white that I picked up. See how its background is black, whereas this one, the background is white. So I think this works better for the quilt that we're working on today for our hashtag Avery Quilts, Comfort in the Waiting. And what I liked about this one, considering it for the Mars quilt, is that it seems to be like hieroglyphics. So we're looking for signs of life on Mars, right? That's why I was going to put a little bit of fish in our crust. And then this might get used in the back, or I may use it. I do have some black and white in the crust, so I may use this. It would work out better than this because, again, this is used for the horizon line, but this is darker, it's more saturated, which the entirety of the crust is. I can't wait to get back to that one. If you watch today's video, which is Tuesday's Tech Talk, you'll know that tomorrow for our therapy day, our creative muscle therapy day, when I normally am working on a Mars quilt, I'm going to be working on something a little different. I started a Leader's Ender quilt that is all these vibrant little blocks. And I'm going to make a miniature doll-size quilt out of them for my eldest granddaughter. And then for the quilting, I'm going to do a, what do you call that? Thread painting of a unicorn on it. I don't know how far I will get to tomorrow, but just the other day when I was working on the blockheads quilt, I block 7 of the blockheads 5 group 2 for the quilt along for Moda Fabrics. I got almost all of these done just using them as leader enders. Don't you think that's the right kind of quilt for a unicorn to be on top of? I've never done any thread painting, so it's good to experiment every once in a while in small scale, and this is a great opportunity for that. So we're getting off topic, or I'm getting off topic. All right, let me show you why this works out. If I use 1.5-inch strips between each of these units, then what I need is 10.5 inches here, 3.5 and 6.5. Is that what I needed? Yeah, 6.5 and 3.5. And so then I got 20 blocks. So this adds up to 20.5 inches. This length here does. So I need 20 times 20.5 at 1.5 inches wide. Well, this fabric was folded already. So that tells me as long as that length was more than 20, then, and it is 21.5 minus the salvages. 1.5 inch strip would make 2 of those, right? So that means I only need to have 10. Is that right? Am I doing my math right? Yes, I would only need to have 10. If it helps to have that kind of thing drawn out, just let me know in the comments and then I'll start doing some quick drawings of what that looks like. All right, let's cut one up. Okay, let me see if I remember what I'm cutting here. I am cutting, 6.5. I should probably cut more than one at a time. Get them good and lined up though. This is kind of directional. Let's make sure that they're going the same direction. Not that they don't have words going in both directions, but it will help continuity's sake. The eye catches subtleties. That's 2 of them. 3 of them. I'm gonna mix it. Let's do another. Let's do one of these. I think I only want to cut 4 at a time. Now, I'm going to come in and cut 6.5, and then I'll come and cut 3.5, and that's going to leave me with a 3.5 by 6.5, a 3.5 inch square, another 3.5 by 6.5, and then a 6.5 inch square. Easy peasy, right? Let me get my favorite tool. There. It's not lined up super well down here. There. Okay, that cut through. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to do 6.5 inches from down here. Since I'm on this side of the table, it's easier for me to mark and cut that way. Right. Love it when it's so easy to get your blocks cut up. Still sounds like there's some threads. Yep. Right, I got a stockpile of my 6.5 by 3.5. Got a stockpile of my squares. Then I have to make the really tough decision. Am I going to willy-nilly my color selection? Or am I going to overthink it like I enjoy doing? Do I want to deprive myself of that fun for the sake of speed and leave the beauty of the scrappiness of this up to the quilty gods? All scrapped quilts look good. They do. You don't have to think about them. But I like thinking about the color disbursement and just the placement of color and how they play off of each other. So I guess you kind of know the answer. Maybe this helps with our math. So this one strip of 1.5 is folded. So not only do I have, what did I say, 21.5 inches, I actually have 43 inches of fabric right here that's 1.5 inches wide. So this is enough for 2 of our 20 strips. So I need 20 strips that are 20.5 inches. So this accounts for 2 of those strips, 1.5 inches wide, and there's 20.5 inches in here twice because it's folded, right? So there'll be some left over. I'm going to wait and subcut from this after I get my other strips. So this says 2. That means I only need to make 9 more of these, because then I'll have 18 total. 20 once you count these. Hope that's making some sense. Let's finish our cutting. Oh, by the way, this design is a Riley Blake design C11-845, The Water Hole by Gabrielle Neal Design. The 2022 pattern. So good luck finding it if you're just in love with it for some reason. I like Riley Blake. I like them all. I haven't met any designer, any manufacturer, any brand that I don't like. Well, probably, I guess that's probably a falsehood. I'm not in love with the backing fabric that I got from Hobby Lobby because it did fade a little bit, but it also wasn't bad. All right, I'm going to get some more cutting done. So that one cut that we just did gave us 2 of our needed strips once we subcut it. And then this will give us 2 more. That will give us a total of 4. And we need 20. This is easy. So clearly I am cutting through 4 layers here because I've folded it in half. It was already folded in half, and then I folded it in half again. I know you're supposed to be able to slide this over without disrupting anything, but I like taking away my old one so I don't make less mistakes that way. I like using a combination of my mat and my ruler. It just helps me to make sure that I'm keeping things on the squared up. This will make 6. Because there's 2 in this one cutting. Coming together rather quickly, isn't it? Halfway there. And this is what we have left. That's how close of a call it was. Isn't that amazing? It's very fortuitous. It was meant to be. Meant to be. There we have it. All of our pieces cut up. There are 20 altogether. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. Okay, now I get these subcut. Should be easy. I'll get that done in a jiffy. I've got this laid out, ready to cut. I want to show you how I'm doing it. I'm just going to do 3 rows that are double-decker, so it's 6 strips at one time, just to make it easier since my blade clearly is not the sharpest, and I don't want to make any mistakes at this point since I have no fabric, no backup fabric. This is all I've got. So I'm going to show you what I'm doing. Here I put 2 sets of the folded strips. So it's 2 of them, 4 of them, 6 of them, and now I will do my cross cutting. And what did I say? 6.5. Let's get a good clean line on this left side. One of the things I like about this cutter is I can hold it like that because of the shape of it. I could never do this with the kind of blade that you hold like a knife. It's trying to move on me because I didn't have any weight down here. Forgot to put a weight down here. Always make sure that your fingers, your arms are out of the way. You can lose control easily. We think that we got it all under control, but not always. Okay, 6.5. This is a 6.5 inch ruler, so that's what we're going to do. Give me just a minute, Zoe. Want to go outside, girl? Okay, just a minute. Just a minute, Zoe. Just a minute. I've got everything cut, so let's just do a few mock-ups and see how we like everything before we go any further. I feel like a waiter. May I serve you? All right, let's mock up some things here. I moved some things out of the way so we'd have a little bit of room. Put up our Sweet Dreams. I think it goes. I really should press things, take time to press things. Let's see. I like that so far. It's really a two-handed job. It's going much slower with just one hand. Let's see what we can learn from this. Let's get a close-up of it. I think what I'm seeing there that I like is it really plays off well of the African pattern. Like it doesn't seem like a misfit. It seems like it plays off of the really playful one on the top right, the graphic one on the top left, and then it's a nice contrast to the sweet yellow one in the bottom left. So it gives me enough confidence to take this board over to the sewing machine and do it the quick way. Just take my bigger block and attach it to one of my strips and then attach that to one of my smaller blocks. I'm going to go against the grain of my creativity, and just leave it up to the quilty gods about how cool all the colors play together. I think you could get really cool. You could have lots of fun with this. Like if you made sure, like in another block where you've got this animal print and the big square, maybe have them come together, you know, and then if you had them come together, all four of them come together, so you'd create like a big block, then would you want the outside ones to be coordinated as well? Maybe, maybe not. You could. There's all kinds of ways that you can overthink things. I am well aware of how easy it is to overthink. I love that though. I make fun of it a little bit saying it's overthinking, but it is part of the enjoyment for me. But I feel really comfortable that the quilty gods know what they're doing on this one. And this, my friends, is a quilt top in the making. Everything I need for this quilt top is on this one design board right here. Isn't that great? Design boards are fantastic, the small ones and the big ones. I don't think I could survive without my design boards, from the little ones to the really big ones and the really big ones. They're fantastic. If you haven't figured out this little step of having a board to keep things organized and your projects organized, or to have a way to put your projects vertical, or to spread a big one out and have it modular. Sometimes they're up and sometimes they're stored away under a bed or something. Design boards of all sizes, they are game changers. I don't think I'm going to get very far. I feel like I've kind of hit a wall. I just haven't bounced back as quickly as I had hoped I would after my trip to Charleston. I'm going to get started, see if I can't give it a good solid 30 minutes before I give up. We'll see how far I get. We'll see. I'm not sure. But one thing for sure, I'll show you how far I get. You know what happens when you do things while you're tired? You make mistakes. See that? That's my 3.5. That's supposed to be a 3.5. Look at the difference. I guess I did a 3-inch instead of a 3.5. I don't know. There's only 8 of these, so I'm going to have to go to my cutoffs that I had and add some back onto them. It won't matter that there's going to be a seam along the line between this and something else. It just won't matter because of the design of that fabric. So it's not a big deal. Fortunately, can't believe I did that. Yes, I can. I was already tired. I didn't know it yet though. It just kind of like hit me. And then I rested, and I came back in here and I said, I can get some done. I've rested now, but I'm not going to overdo it. I'm just going to do, like I said, I'm going to give this 30 minutes and see how much I get done in 30 minutes. You see all of this piling up? I think that's a beautiful thing. Chain stitching is just fun, just absolute fun. Only problem is I'm not getting very far on my leader ender quilt. I've not been recording this part because I really didn't think that you'd want to see it, but I thought I'd go ahead and record and then just fast forward it. And that, you know, if you don't want to watch it, you can scrub through it, but this way you can at least just see the process. Better to record it than to not have it. Can you see all of that piling up? Look at that. Super easy. I love super easy. Yay. Good for easy. I love it. I love it. If you don't have something like this, I don't know if you can see this. This is my painter's tape that I put down right here so that I can just pull my fabric over to it, and I know I'm getting 1/4 inch, so I don't have to eyeball it. I don't have to do anything besides hold it against it, and it goes straight, and I get 1/4 inch every time. It may not be pretty, because I have to peel it off every time that I have to change the bobbin, which makes sure that I have a good, nice, full bobbin every time I put it in there. I don't put any half-filled bobbins in there. So it has to come up and go back down. So it's been pulled and tugged on, and it's not even, but it works beautifully, so I keep it. I'm about to run out of these. I only have 2 left, but I have a lot more of these. After I get these put on the next 2 here, I should have 8 to marry up with the 8 of these that I need to add some fabric to. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. My measurements are off somewhere, so this would be 8. I'm not going to add these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So why would I have 8 of these and 8 of these, which should marry up nicely, and still have 2 of these left over? Something's off somewhere. It's okay. We can figure this out. I'm just going to leave these, set these aside for the moment. I'm going to start hang on, how do I want to do that? Yeah, I'm going to take these off the machine, put them in my lap, and start marrying them to the big squares. Here's my first one. There. Probably should take the time to iron them, but I don't have to. Okay, so if this is going to be at the top, then I do this. I want my hippopotamus, my giraffes, my everything else that's on there to be standing up and not standing on their heads. I'm doing okay energy-wise, so I'm going to give it another 10 minutes. This could easily be a leader enders quilt. Like you could keep this to your side, like I keep my stack of leader enders over here. You could just keep this on the side, and because it's so formulaic as you're putting it together, you really don't have to think about it, except for knowing that this guy's going to be horizontal. Like, well, do you want everything that is a print or directional to be upright going that way, or do you want it that way? Just keep that in mind. You know, same thing with the big square. And easily this is a leader ender quilt. easily. I pushed through and I got all of the ones, I don't know if you can see this, all of the ones that go on the right side of the block attached. And what I have left to do is to take all of the ones where I attached the 3.5-inch rectangle, attach that to the squares. It's not that many. I'm gonna go ahead and do it. If I have to leave this job unfinished, I at least want a certain section of it to be finished. So I'm gonna see if I can't push through with this, but then I really must stop. Chain piecing is the best. You know what? It is so easy to just keep on pushing through. You know, my mind and my heart wants me to just push on through, but I know to pace my body. I crashed earlier right in the middle of working on this. I had to go and sit down for about an hour. I got a second wind, and maybe I could finish this and not pay the price later. But since I had a big energy drain last week from going to Charleston, I need to give myself time to build up my energy reserves again. So I'm not going to push through. I've got, excuse my reach, I've got all of this put together. I need to separate it from the chain and put in the vertical strip of the block sashing, the black and white sashing. This shows you I am more tired than what I may sound like. I pieced one of them together and then I realized it's not square and there's no vertical strip. I totally forgot to put the vertical strip. So that bit of stitching will be coming out. But it does give you an idea what it will look like. We've got a red, blue, yellow, green, and our black and white will go right inside there. It'll be cool. I like it. There was one other mistake that I have noticed that I did last week, not this week. Hang on, I'll show you. My bigger squares are supposed to be actual squares. They're supposed to be the same width as the rectangles. Well, they are on one side, but not the other. So I don't know what I did. These are the ones that I cut individually that I did not use a perfect 10 ruler for. So I don't know what I did. So I'm going to have to be creative on that. I either need to add fabric to it to make it square, or I figure out how many of them I did wrong and see if it makes sense for them to all be on the bottom row or something along those lines. We'll see. I'm not jumping to any conclusions today. I do feel a lot better after taking my rest break earlier, but I just don't want to push it. So we're going to call it good. We've got all of this. We've got a quilt top right here. Right here. Isn't that amazing? It's hard to think that way, right? Looks like looks like a row of flags. But once you sew all that together, you've got a quilt top. Isn't quilt making just an amazing thing? A beautiful, wonderful, amazing thing. This is going to turn into something cool. Isn't that crazy? All right, my friends, I'm going to call it good for the day and get about the rest of my evening. And I hope that you finish out your day beautifully as well. Thank you for being here. I really do appreciate you spending some of your quality time with me, being on this journey, and helping me out with the hashtag Avery Quilts, Comfort in the Waiting Quilts. I do appreciate your participation and your support, your subscribing and liking and the comments, and yeah, just being in a community with me. It's a beautiful thing. It really does my heart good, and I really appreciate you. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.